I was Laura, the movie queen's ace agent. For 6 years, we had been in love, but we never dared to make our relationship public. Then, right there on the red carpet, she admitted to being in a relationship with her first love, a D-list actor. From that moment on, I became the biggest cuckold in the entertainment circle. Later, after she lost both her fame and her fortune, she cried, knelt in front of me, and begged me to pull her out of the abyss. But I simply smiled, walked away with my true love, and never looked back. Sorry, I said. You're blocking the way of the real movie queen of my house. This was the 6th year of my secret relationship with movie queen Laura. When we first started dating, Laura told me that, for the sake of her acting career, it was better not to make our relationship public. As her agent, I agreed. Then, on the very day of our 6th anniversary, Laura's first love, Makoto, came back. Everyone in the entertainment circle knew that this first love was the white moonlight in Laura's heart. Back then, Laura broke away from her family just to be with Makoto, causing a huge stir throughout the industry. Makoto was undeniably handsome, but he came from a family with a terrible reputation. Every member of his family was a thief. What parent in the world would willingly let their precious daughter marry into such a family? In the end, they still separated because reality is always cruel. When Makoto boarded the ferry to leave the country, Laura chased after him in tears, but all she could see was his determined back as he walked away. He didn't even leave her a single word. From that day on, Makoto became a thorn buried deep in Laura's heart. Later, Laura's family pushed her into the entertainment industry, and with time, that painful love story was gradually buried by the years. As the ace agent of an entertainment company, I got to know her, and before long we became close. Laura told me she had fallen in love with me at first sight and pursued me tirelessly for a long time before we finally got together. Thanks to my connections in the industry, she easily landed roles in literary films directed by top filmmakers and eventually won the Best Actress award. On the night she received that honor, she stood on stage with tears in her eyes, thanking me, but only as her agent. It was Laura's very first award, and she was so happy that night that she drank far more than she should have. After drinking too much, she threw herself onto the bed, wrapped her arms around my waist, and refused to let go like a spoiled child. Marco, am I standing high enough now? Can you see me? Don't leave me, okay, Marco? Laura's hands trembled as she gently touched my face, but the look in her eyes made it seem as though she was looking at someone else entirely. How could I ever leave you, baby? I replied with a foolish smile. At the time, I simply thought she was overwhelmed by the joy of winning her first award, and I laughed along with her. It wasn't until much later, when I finally met Makoto, that I realized just how much I looked like him. The resemblance was so striking that, with only the slightest disguise, people could easily mistake one for the other. Suddenly, everything made sense. No wonder she claimed she had fallen in love with me at first sight. No wonder she had been so emotional that night and looked at me with such worship in her eyes. His name was Makoto. Mine was Marco. Makoto. So that was the truth. She had never really been calling my name. Throughout all these years, the only person who had ever lived in her heart was him. And what about me? Marco, the man who had worked tirelessly to build Laura's career over the past 6 years. I was nothing more than a substitute, a grain of rice that could never compare to the white moonlight in her heart. Ridiculous. Truly ridiculous. Reuniting with Makoto happened during a talent show. Laura was the special guest mentor for that episode, while Makoto appeared as one of the contestants. The moment he saw Laura sitting on the judges' panel, his perfect composure crumbled, and he even stumbled through his performance. You, contestant, are you afraid of the stage? Or haven't you practiced enough? If this is how you dance, you should go home and sell sweet potatoes. Being a star isn't for you. Every mentor harshly criticized his lack of professionalism because he had no one backing him. Makoto bit his lip in disappointment and looked longingly toward the only silent judge, Laura. I stood backstage, watching everything unfold on the monitor. Laura never spoke up for him, yet her eyes had already turned red. The joy of seeing him again after so many years mixed with all the grievances she had carried inside her heart, overwhelmed her. Even as the movie queen, she couldn't hide her emotions. It was an expression I had never once seen on her face during all our years together. Watching her like that made my heart tighten with a sour, bitter pain, like biting into an unripe plum. Originally, Makoto was supposed to be eliminated from the competition, but because of Laura's insistence, he was allowed to stay. The entertainment industry has always been a dark place. That night, every contestant who advanced was invited to a banquet. Laura and I attended as well. The room was filled with powerful investors and influential bosses, old in age, but certainly not old in desire. Makoto, with his handsome face and naturally flirtatious eyes, quickly became the center of attention among those old lechers. Before long, a greasy, obese woman insisted on becoming his sugar mama and demanded that he drink wine with her mouth to mouth. "Oh, handsome boy, come here and serve your auntie." The fat woman smirked and beckoned to him, frightening Makoto so much that his obvious reluctance actually made me feel a sense of schadenfreude. But my amusement didn't last long, because Laura's reaction was even stronger than Makoto's. I watched as Makoto was humiliated, and beside me, Laura bit her lip so hard it nearly bled. Under the table, she grabbed my hand without even realizing it. Her sharp, crimson-painted nails dug deep into my flesh until my palm began to bleed, yet she seemed completely unaware of what she was doing. Just as the fat woman's thick lips were about to touch Makoto, Laura finally snapped. "Enough! What are you doing? It's disgusting. Attending this banquet is the greatest humiliation of my life." Before anyone could react, she shoved me aside, snatched up the glass of red wine in front of her, and threw it straight into the fat woman's face without a second thought. "Laura, you're drunk." Realizing disaster was unfolding, I hurried to stop her, but she ignored me completely. Instead, she grabbed Makoto's hand and walked out without even looking back. Everyone else at the table exchanged stunned glances while the fat woman's expression darkened into something terrifying. I knew immediately that everything was over. She was the biggest investor behind the show, and Laura had just publicly humiliated her. Laura walked away with Makoto, leaving me behind to clean up the mess she had created. That night, I drank more than I could remember just to apologize on her behalf. By the end of it, my stomach was bleeding. As I clutched my abdomen and collapsed onto the floor, the mocking voices around me echoed endlessly in my ears. "Marco, isn't Laura your woman? Being cuckolded in front of everyone tastes better than this wine, doesn't it? You can't even control the woman you made famous. What kind of man are you?" Before the pain finally dragged me into unconsciousness, I vaguely felt someone gently touch my face. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a hospital bed. It was already the next day. The nurse told me that a young woman had brought me there, probably a kind waitress from the banquet. I reached into my pocket and took out my phone. There wasn't a single message from Laura. Not one. It seemed that Makoto's return had made her forget everything else, including me. I had no desire to stay in the hospital, so I pulled out my phone, grabbed my coat, and left. When I returned to Laura's house, I saw her car parked in the yard. Perfect. I had something to tell her, not only about our relationship but also about the renewal of my contract. Just as I was about to walk in, I heard her voice. "Makoto, don't go, please." The moment I heard his name, I stopped in my tracks. Looking into the yard, I saw the two of them locked together. Laura clung tightly to Makoto from behind, her eyes red as she pleaded with him in a spoiled, pitiful voice. She had never once looked at me that way. "You already have a fiancé. After leaving me, you immediately dated that man for 6 years, didn't you?" Makoto said coldly as he struggled half-heartedly to free himself. "Do you know what happened after your family forced me overseas? I was beaten by violent foreigners every day. I barely survived. Otherwise, I'd already be dead. I only came back because I wanted to stay alive. I still don't understand why your mother looked down on me just because I was poor." His voice sounded resentful, as though he had truly suffered all those years, but from where I stood, I could clearly see the smug satisfaction hidden in his expression. like a petty man savoring his victory. His indifference only made Laura cling to him even tighter, like an octopus refusing to let go. No, I don't love him. I don't love that man. He's just my agent. Makoto. He only looks a little like you. My heart has always belonged to you. I don't want him anymore. I only want you. I'll change agents. I'll solve everything. Fine, fine. Who could have imagined that the once proud movie queen would humble herself like this? And who would have believed that I, Marco, the top agent in the entertainment industry, had been nothing more than a substitute all along? I had devoted everything to Laura's career, only to become someone she could throw away without hesitation. As I watched them embrace and kiss in the yard, my hands slowly clenched into trembling fists, and my eyes burned red with humiliation. Laura, I never forgot you either, Makoto said with a smile before kissing her again, deliberately looking in my direction with unmistakable triumph in his eyes. I let out a cold sneer. I didn't push the door open. I simply turned around and walked away. Fine. A pretentious coquette and a hopeless simp truly deserved each other. Laura, between the two of us, who really replaced whom? That remains to be seen. From that day forward, negative news and scandals about Laura flooded the internet without end. The most explosive rumor claimed that she had been secretly keeping a young lover in a luxurious apartment. Just a few days earlier, paparazzi had photographed that secret boyfriend, the very same Makoto whom Laura had desperately protected on the talent show. Soon, netizens uncovered Makoto's dark past. Both of his parents had gone to prison for theft. He had gotten a classmate pregnant in high school, dropped out of school, become a street thug, and accumulated one scandal after another. Public opinion exploded. The internet was flooded with insults aimed at the disgraced celebrity, and even Laura's own fans turned against her. What? Laura actually chose a boyfriend like him? He's nothing but a scumbag. Don't you get it? A rotten pot deserves a rotten lid. They're both trash. I used to think Laura and her agent were a couple. The agent is so handsome. She must be blind. In the past, the moment rumors like these appeared, I would have immediately ordered the PR department to suppress them. This time, however, I did absolutely nothing. I simply watched as the scandal surrounding Laura and Makoto dominated every trending topic. From the perspective of an agent, an artist with ulterior motives should be left to grow wild like weeds in an abandoned field. Sooner or later, the wildfire would consume everything on its own. Given enough time, the wildfire would naturally burn her to the ground. From the perspective of an agent, that was simply how the entertainment industry worked. From the perspective of a man who had loved her for 6 years, Laura had been the one who betrayed me first, so she had no right to blame me, Marco, for standing by and watching everything happen without lifting a finger. As the news spread, colleagues and old friends throughout the industry began calling to ask what had happened. Every time I gave the same calm reply over the phone. I'm not sure. Laura and I have already ended our contract. 3 days later, while public opinion was still raging across the internet, Laura finally called me. The moment I answered, she exploded. Marco, what kind of agent are you? The insults against me online are piling up into a mountain. Are you just sitting there doing nothing? Or are all these online attacks you're doing? You're truly malicious. Her furious voice echoed endlessly through the phone. It was obvious that the overwhelming online abuse had driven her nearly mad over the past few days, and only then did she suddenly remember that she still had an agent. But had she remembered that she also had a boyfriend of 6 years while she had been happily reunited with her white moonlight? I let out a cold sneer and calmly replied, Miss Laura, I think you've simply been too busy to remember. Our contract expired a long time ago. She fell silent for a moment before asking in disbelief, What? When did it expire? I didn't know. It expired while you were busy being all lovey-dovey with your white moonlight. Before she could respond, I continued, We're finished in work and in feelings. We're over in every possible way. The moment those words left my mouth, I hung up, blocked her number, and suddenly felt as though the whole world had become quiet. For the first time in a very long time, my heart felt unbelievably at peace. Later, to escape the endless online abuse, Laura disappeared from the public eye for quite some time. By then, I had already resigned from the entertainment company. The entertainment industry has never lacked smart people. As soon as news spread that I, the industry's ace agent, had resigned, I immediately became the target of recruitment by numerous major companies. Before long, generous offers began arriving one after another. About half a month later, I attended a film festival and saw Laura again. She was walking the red carpet arm in arm with Makoto, looking every bit like an intimate couple. Heh. Without me, even the gown she wore had become the cheapest option available. Reporters surrounded them with microphones, while flashes from countless cameras lit up the venue. "Miss Laura, are you and Mr. Makoto walking the red carpet together to officially announce your relationship?" Facing the cameras, Laura smiled shyly and leaned affectionately against Makoto. Wearing a smug smile, Makoto lowered his head and kissed her right in front of everyone. "Let's keep it a secret for now. I want to announce the good news on the award stage." Although he called it a secret, it was practically a public confirmation of their relationship. People often say the internet never forgets, but apparently its memory isn't very reliable. As I stood not far away, everyone who knew me couldn't help laughing. After all, for the past 6 years, everyone in the entertainment circle had believed I was Laura's boyfriend. Now I had become the most famous cuckold in the industry. As I stood there thinking about it, one reporter suddenly asked the very question that had been on everyone's mind. "I've heard that Laura's agent, Mr. Marco, has always been rumored to be her partner. Is that true? Or does your relationship with Makoto count as an affair?" The sharp question instantly drained the color from Laura's face. Almost involuntarily, she turned toward where I was standing. That single glance immediately attracted every reporter's attention, and within seconds, countless microphones were thrust in front of me. "Ah, Mr. Wong is here too. Could you give us a brief response?" Laura looked at me as though needles were piercing my body. Her eyes were filled with panic, fear, and above all, warning. She was terrified that I would expose something damaging about her and Makoto in front of everyone. But unlike her, I had no intention of losing my composure before the cameras, nor did I want to become the center of another media storm. I simply smiled politely and said, "Sorry, I've already resigned." After leaving those few words behind, I turned and walked away. Backstage, one of the organizers handed me a document. "Mr. Wong, here's tonight's winners list." Sitting quietly in the lounge, I glanced through it and saw Laura's name listed under the Best Actress category. Then I remembered. At the time this list had originally been prepared, we hadn't fallen out yet. With my influence, even her poorly received movie had been able to secure the award. But now she had foolishly chosen to cut ties with me. She truly believed that winning Best Actress once had made her the queen of the entertainment industry, when in reality she wasn't even worthy of being someone's foot washer. Pointing at Laura's name, I looked coldly at the organizers. Someone like her is worthy of being Best Actress? They immediately began trembling. After all, they had only obtained the hosting rights because of my influence. One of them carefully asked, "Then, shall we change it?" I slowly nodded, my eyes sweeping across the long list of actresses until they finally stopped on one familiar name. My heart stirred slightly. "No," I said at last. "Let's choose based on merit." The award ceremony proceeded as scheduled, and before long it was time to announce the winner of Best Actress. And now, the winner of the Best Actress award at this film festival is... Sitting casually in the front row, I glanced back. Because of the promise I had once made to her, Laura sat there full of confidence, subtly straightening her posture as she waited to hear her name. "Fool. After betraying me, you still thought I would hand you the award and let you stand on stage, proudly announcing to the entire world that you had made a cuckold out of me? Or did you honestly believe you possessed the talent to win Best Actress on your own?" "The Best Actress is..." the host announced before finally smiling. "Let's congratulate Lisa." Instantly, the camera shifted beneath the bright spotlight and focused on a graceful, radiant woman. It was Lisa. Lisa seemed completely stunned. She sat frozen for a moment before finally rising to her feet with a graceful smile and walking onto the stage to accept the Best Actress award. From somewhere behind her, I could feel a venomous glare boring into my back, but I didn't even bother to turn around. I already knew whose eyes they were. Laura was silently cursing me. "Marco, what do you mean by this? You clearly told me that the Best Actress award was mine. We've known each other for so long. Can't you bear to see me happy?" On my way to the restroom, Laura suddenly stepped in front of me and blocked my path. Her beautiful face, which had once filled me with warmth and affection, was now twisted with anger. Looking at her now, all I felt was disgust. I met her furious gaze without the slightest hesitation. "I've already told you, Laura. The only reason you became Best Actress was because I was the man standing behind you. Without me, you're nothing." My voice was calm, but the disdain in my eyes was impossible to hide. That dismissive look struck directly at her pride. Her face turned crimson with humiliation. "You bastard! You're just taking revenge, aren't you? Fine. Let me tell you something. I can do perfectly well without you." She practically screamed the words. Overcome with anger and embarrassment, she suddenly raised her hand, intending to slap me. Before she could, I caught her wrist and, without another word, slapped her across the face instead. A bright red handprint instantly appeared on her cheek. She clutched her face, staring at me in complete disbelief. "Why you? You actually hit a woman?" I let out a cold sneer and casually wiped my hand, as though I had just touched something filthy. "I don't hit good women, but when it comes to a slut like you, I'll slap you every time I see you. Now get lost. This is the men's restroom. Or do you want tomorrow's headlines to read, 'Laura attacks men's restroom'?" The threat immediately snapped her back to reality. Panic flashed across her face, and she hurried away without another word. I spat lightly on the floor and turned to head back toward the venue. "Marco." Just then, a familiar voice stopped me in the hallway. I looked up and saw Lisa standing there quietly in a pure white gown, gazing at me with calm eyes. "Did you give me this award?" she asked softly. Then, after a brief pause, she added, "Marco, are you planning to use this award to crush me again?" Lisa was my first love. We met years ago at a banquet where everyone was trying to secure investments for a film. She had been brought there by the production team, though she was only playing a minor supporting role. One of the investors, a wealthy coal boss, kept staring at her with disgusting desire. Lisa was known nationwide as a goddess, her beauty as delicate and pure as blooming jasmine. That night, her face was flushed bright red from humiliation, yet she stubbornly refused to give in. She stood there like a resilient reed bending in the wind but refusing to break. She rejected the room key card the coal boss offered her, and his face immediately darkened with rage. Furious, he shoved her onto the table while hurling filthy insults at her. "Stupid slut. You're here to entertain people anyway. What are you pretending to be pure for? I'll take care of you right now." The man was rich and powerful, and no one in the room dared interfere. Except me. Without saying a word, I picked up a wine bottle and smashed it over the old pervert's head. The crimson liquid splattered everywhere. I couldn't even tell whether it was wine or blood anymore. Looking down at him, I said coldly, "Mr. Zhao," acting like a hooligan in front of me, "don't you think you've gone too far?" He rolled around on the floor in agony. I crouched beside him and casually patted his face. The moment he recognized who I was, his expression changed completely. He gasped in horror, scrambled to his feet, and fled. After all, I was Marco, the only heir to the Wang business empire. Becoming an entertainment agent had always been nothing more than a hobby for me. Lisa was deeply grateful that I had saved her, and from then on we became close friends. At first, I was simply curious about her. In an industry where almost no one remained clean, Lisa had earned a reputation for refusing to submit to the unspoken rules. Even though her beauty could take anyone's breath away, she could only accept insignificant supporting roles because she refused to compromise herself. One day she looked at me seriously and said, "I love acting, not being a star." That answer was exactly what I had hoped to hear. I looked into her bright, phoenix-like eyes. They sparkled with dreams and hope like countless stars scattered across the night sky. And I happened to be the person capable of reaching up and plucking the brightest star from the heavens. Naturally, Lisa became both my artist and my lover. To the public, she was the untouchable ice-cold goddess, elegant and graceful like a swan. Yet whenever she was with me, she became nothing more than a shy, innocent girl. Countless nights, as I wrapped my arms around her slender waist and kissed her, I could feel her body trembling softly while she buried herself bashfully against my chest. "Marco, I love you. I love you so much." Every time Lisa whispered those words, her gentle voice was sweeter than candy, enough to melt any man's heart. Each confession only made our kisses more passionate and our love even deeper. But in the end, we still broke up. During those years, with my connections and influence, Lisa gradually became one of the most sought-after actresses in the entertainment industry. It was at the peak of her career that I suddenly suggested we separate. A clean, ruthless breakup at the edge of a cliff. Without my support, Lisa's resources immediately dried up, and she returned to playing insignificant supporting roles, forced once again to endure whatever treatment the production crews gave her. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at me in disbelief. "Why, Marco? Yesterday you were talking about proposing to me. Today isn't April Fool's Day. This joke isn't funny." She wasn't crying because the film crews treated her coldly. She was crying because she couldn't understand why I had suddenly ended everything between us. I turned my face away, unable to look into her eyes, while forcing myself to say the cruelest words I could think of. "Why? Because I'm tired of you. Ha! You're nothing but a country bumpkin who's never seen the world. Show you a little kindness, wave my hand once, and you come running. Lisa, look at your background. Everything you have today is because of me. What makes you think you're worthy of being with me?" Those merciless words would have made any ordinary girl burst into tears and run away. But Lisa didn't move. She simply stood there staring at me. Slowly, she shook her head. Her reddened eyes were overflowing with sorrow, like a river struggling to flow against the current. Then she stepped forward, wrapped her arms around me, and buried her face against my chest as her tears soaked through my shirt. For someone as proud as Lisa, this was the humblest posture imaginable. Through quiet sobs, she whispered, "I don't believe you. If you were really this kind of person, then why did you save me back then? You know I was never with you for fame or fortune." I let out a cold sneer as I reached out, lifted Lisa's chin, and lightly patted her face in deliberate humiliation. "I only wanted to watch you climb all the way to the top, only to fall back into the dust overnight. That's what's amusing to me. Doesn't it feel wonderful to be lifted high into the sky, only to be destroyed the next moment? This is who I am, and there's nothing you can do about it." The moment I finished speaking, I shoved her away without another glance, pulled a $1 million check from my pocket, and threw it into her face. "Get lost. Consider it your breakup fee. Keep it." Lisa stood there motionless, completely frozen, while I turned around and walked away without ever looking back. Outside, rain was pouring from the sky. As I sat in the car, I stared silently through the rain-covered window at the blurry scenery beyond. Only the driver knew that day that the young master cried together with the rain. "Marco, are you planning to use this award to crush me again?" Years later, we met once more in this glamorous world of fame and fortune. Time had changed her. The power of the white moonlight was indeed extraordinary. Lisa, who had once resembled a delicate jasmine blossom, had now become more like a blooming white rose, beautiful, elegant, and impossible to ignore. The moment I saw her again, my heartbeat became completely uncontrollable. It was the same feeling I had experienced just a few hours earlier when I caught sight of her backstage. My heart pounded so hard it almost hurt. Lisa, after being apart for so many years, I wanted to ask how she had been. I wanted to know whether she had been eating well, whether filming had gone smoothly, whether anyone had treated her badly, and above all, I wanted to explain the misunderstanding that had separated us all those years ago. Yet the man who had always been eloquent suddenly found himself unable to speak. Countless words gathered in my throat, but in the end, I managed to say only one sentence. No, this award is what you deserve. Those words came from the deepest part of my heart. After our breakup, Lisa had endured everything alone. She was a truly outstanding actress, easily the best among all the actresses in the industry. She deserved the Best Actress award far more than someone like Laura, who was nothing more than a beautiful vase. Lisa looked at me with reddened eyes and let out a bitter laugh. Do you really think I'd believe you? No one falls into the same river twice. Even after 10 years, her brows and eyes were exactly as I remembered them. She still carried that proud, aloof temperament, but now her eyes were tinged with red as she bit her lip and questioned me. Or do you only see me as a tool to make Laura jealous? I frowned in confusion. Laura? What does she have to do with this? Shaking my head, I replied sincerely, how could you possibly compare to her? What I meant was that someone as shallow and superficial as Laura could never compare with Lisa. But to my surprise, Lisa misunderstood my words completely. Her brows knitted together in anger, and she lifted the hem of her dress before storming away without another word, looking even more annoyed than before. I couldn't help letting out a helpless sigh. After all these years apart, her temper had only become stronger. Watching her elegant figure disappear down the hallway, I found myself missing the shy, innocent girl she used to be. Congratulations on winning Best Actress. I called after her in the otherwise empty corridor. The only answer I received was the sharp, rhythmic sound of her high heels clicking against the floor, each step seemingly heavier than the last, as though she were deliberately stomping harder after hearing my words. I couldn't help smiling to myself. Even now, she was still unbelievably adorable. News of Lisa winning the Best Actress award quickly dominated entertainment headlines everywhere. In an industry where success without powerful backing was almost unheard of, it was inevitable that rumors would begin to spread. Especially now that she had unknowingly offended the narrow-minded Laura. Before long, headlines such as Lisa steals Laura's Best Actress title and Lisa becomes a big shots plaything flooded every entertainment platform, with Laura secretly hiring internet trolls to manipulate public opinion. The online attacks became overwhelmingly vicious. Oh my God! She's so shameless. That Best Actress award clearly belonged to our Laura. How can this seductive fox be so disgusting? Haha, she pretends to be innocent, but who knows how many men she's slept with behind the scenes. Yeah, I heard the award originally belonged to Laura. Her name had already been engraved on the trophy before Lisa stole it away. Poor Laura. Then countless identical comments began flooding every platform. Lisa, get out of the entertainment industry. Lisa, get out of the entertainment industry. Lisa, get out of the entertainment industry. Endless insults, vicious accusations, and filthy language crashed down on Lisa like an overwhelming mountain. Overnight, she seemed to become the greatest sinner in the public's eyes, while every bit of Laura's misfortune was blamed entirely on her. Sitting alone in my office, I silently scrolled through the absurd spectacle unfolding across the internet, a cold smile appearing on my lips. Right then, my assistant knocked on the office door. "Brother Wong, is it time?" I slowly nodded. Yes, it was time. The moment the online abuse reached its highest point, one of the most influential entertainment bloggers suddenly posted a public statement defending Lisa. But after watching the movie, it's obvious that Lisa's performance was outstanding. She brought such a small role completely to life, far better than that decorative vase called Laura. The blogger continued, "Has everyone already forgotten what Laura herself said during the red carpet interview? She publicly announced that she had good news to reveal on the awards stage. But at that moment, nobody should have known who the actual Best Actress winner would be. So how could Laura have been so certain that she would be standing on that stage? Dear audience, have you figured out who the real protagonist of this drama really is?" Those carefully chosen words immediately shifted public opinion at the very peak of the online attacks. Soon, opportunistic netizens began arguing among themselves. But Lisa must have someone backing her. I work as a staff member, and I saw her backstage acting very familiar with a powerful executive. Are there really any clean women in the entertainment industry? They're all corrupt. If she's innocent, then she should prove it. Reading those comments reminded me of something. It was finally time to mend fences with someone and make our relationship official. Just then, Laura and Makoto appeared in front of me, standing hand in hand with smug expressions on their faces. The online backlash was still growing stronger by the minute. It was obvious they had spent a great deal of money fueling the campaign, determined to take revenge. Laura smiled triumphantly before saying, "See, Marco? Even without you, our Laura won't suffer." Looking at Laura's smug, self-satisfied face, I felt nothing but an overwhelming sense of unfamiliarity, followed by an even stronger wave of disgust. How had I been so blind that I spent 6 years with a woman like her? Now that I looked at it, she and that pretty boy thug Makoto were truly a perfect match. If anything, I was the fortunate one for escaping that miserable relationship. I looked at them calmly and said, "Using this kind of tactic is nothing more than hurting yourself just to wound your enemy. Lisa won't care, and as for me, I only see the two of you as a pair of complete fools." "What did you just say? You dare insult me?" Sure enough, Makoto's true colors immediately surfaced. Beneath the polished image Laura had worked so hard to build, he was still nothing more than a street thug. His face twisted with rage as he shoved Laura aside and raised his fist, ready to punch me. Dealing with someone like him wasn't even worth dirtying one of my fingers, so I simply pointed behind him and said, "Oh? Since when did the reporters get here?" The moment he heard the word reporters, Makoto's entire demeanor changed instantly. The violent thug disappeared, replaced by an obedient, well-behaved young man. Laura had spent enormous effort cleaning up his image, explaining away every previous scandal as nothing more than baseless rumors. But when he turned around and realized there wasn't a single reporter behind him, his expression immediately darkened again. "You actually tricked me." Furious, he charged at me like a wild beast that had completely lost its reason. Just as his fist was about to land on my face, a loud click echoed through the hallway. This time, real reporters had actually arrived. I took the punch without dodging, and Makoto's violent attack was captured live by every camera present. In that single moment, every painstaking effort Laura had made to rebuild his reputation was completely destroyed. Everything she had worked so hard for was reduced to nothing, and the two of them were thrown right back to where they had started. After the reporters finally dispersed, Laura's attitude suddenly softened. Hugging herself tightly, she looked at me with pleading eyes and said, "Marco, we've known each other for so long. Do you really have to push me this far? If you're still angry, if you're still jealous, then I'll apologize, all right? If you want, I can." I couldn't help laughing as I cut her off. "Can what? Don't tell me you actually think I'm still pining after you and willing to remain your secret lover like before?" I looked at her with amusement before adding, "Laura, it's morning. Time to wake up from your daydream." I had truly never met anyone so shameless in my life. Even as security escorted her away, she continued shouting at me, "Marco, if you help Lisa bully me, I'll make sure neither of you has an easy life." I almost laughed. Who would end up making whose life difficult was something that had yet to be decided. Hiss. Be gentle. I couldn't help sucking in a breath when Lisa dabbed medicine onto the bruise on my face. After the earlier chaos, I had no idea how long she had been standing outside the door watching everything unfold. She only walked over after everyone else had finally left. "Now you know it hurts," she said softly while continuing to apply the medicine. "Why didn't you dodge that punch earlier?" Then, after a brief pause, she quietly asked, "Did it make your heart ache?" I smiled at her. "You're worried about me, aren't you?" She immediately became flustered. "You're such a smooth talker." I wasn't worried. Even so, her hand trembled slightly while applying the medicine. When I gently reached out and held her hand, she didn't pull away. Instead, her eyes slowly turned red. Looking into them, I said quietly, "Laura targeted you because of me. I'm sorry you had to go through all of this, Lisa." The moment she heard those words, the straight posture she had been maintaining all this time suddenly collapsed. She looked unbearably wronged. After all, she had won the Best Actress award entirely through her own ability. Yet because of Laura's jealous rage, she had been buried beneath endless online abuse. Those insults had gathered like falling snowflakes until they formed an enormous avalanche capable of crushing a person completely. Through it all, Lisa had endured everything alone without confiding in anyone. My simple words of concern shattered the emotional wall she had built. Sniffling through her tears, she suddenly threw herself into my arms. I gently stroked her soft hair and carefully wiped away the sparkling tears rolling down her cheeks. Holding her as though she were the most precious treasure in the world, I whispered, "Lissy, let's get back together." Those 6 years with Laura had seemed fulfilling on the surface, but inside I had long since lost the feeling of what love truly was. It wasn't until I met Lisa again and felt my heart racing uncontrollably that I finally understood the meaning of love once more. Tears still glistened in her eyes as she looked up at me. "Are you lying to me again, Marco? Are you going to deceive me like before? Are you going to lift me all the way to the top, only to let me fall even harder?" Although she questioned me softly, she still refused to leave my embrace. Instead of answering immediately, I quietly asked, "Has your father's uremia been cured?" Lisa froze completely. She stared at me in shock, clearly never expecting me to know about that. After a long silence, she whispered, "A kind person helped." "How? How did you know? Could it be?" I let out a long sigh before finally telling her everything I had kept buried in my heart for so many years. Back then, I had suffered too, carrying all of that pain alone. At the time, Lisa's father had been suffering from uremia and urgently needed a compatible kidney to survive. Her career had been at its absolute peak. Yet she never told me because she didn't want me to worry. With her own connections, there was no way she could have found a matching donor in time. Around that same period, someone informed my father about my relationship with Lisa. My father was a businessman who had always looked down on actresses, and he used Lisa's father's illness to force me into making a choice. I still remember the cold, authoritative expression on his face. He told me that if I left Lisa and agreed to Laura's pursuit instead, he would personally arrange a suitable kidney for Lisa's father and pay every single medical expense. At that time, I had not yet taken control of the family business. I had no power to oppose him. I had no choice but to leave Lisa using the cruelest words I could possibly say. As I continued speaking, I suddenly felt warmth soaking through the front of my shirt. Looking down, I realized Lisa was crying again, just like the day I broke up with her years ago. I gently cupped her tear-stained face with both hands and asked tenderly, "Lisa, do you still blame me?" She nodded through her tears and lightly pounded her fists against my chest. "I do blame you," she whispered in a voice still choked with sobs. "I blame you for not telling me the truth sooner." Lisa and I got back together, but almost immediately, the news exploded across the internet once again. This time, the headline read, "Shamelessly woman hooks up with Wong family's elderly boss, caught red-handed as a mistress." The accompanying video appeared convincing at first glance. It showed Lisa getting into a luxury car that belonged to the Wong Group, along with several blurry, highly suggestive scenes. But after looking into it, I discovered the truth. The footage had actually been taken from a television drama filmed more than 10 years ago, with AI technology used to swap the faces so that they resembled Lisa and my father. The comments underneath were even more interesting. "Wow, so Lisa really does have powerful backing, huh? That old man from the Wong family is already over 70, and she still wants to sleep with him. She must really be desperate. Tisk, TSK, TSK. A woman like her will eat anything if it helps her get what she wants. She always pretended to be innocent and pure, but in the end she's just another slut." Reading those disgusting comments gave me a splitting headache. I closed the video without another glance and immediately forwarded the link to the Wong Group's legal department. At that very moment, my phone buzzed with a text message from Makoto. "You're still far from being able to fight us." I couldn't help laughing to myself. These idiots, compared to the real battles fought in the business world, The petty schemes of the entertainment industry were nothing more than children's games. But daring to drag the Wong Group and my father into this? They had truly kicked a steel plate. As the internet continued boiling with rumors, I told Lisa to remain completely silent, while the Wong Group released 2 official statements. The first was a formal legal announcement declaring that we would pursue legal action against everyone responsible for fabricating and spreading the rumors. Attached was a lawyer's letter, and the defendants were clearly listed as Laura and Makoto. The second announcement was even shorter. It simply read, "No powerful backing, just a wonderful wife." Beneath those words was a photograph of our marriage certificate. There was no more dignified way to announce love than placing it on the front page of a major corporation's official website for 7 straight days. That dignity was exactly what I wanted to give Lisa after all the grievances and suffering she had endured throughout the years. But even that wasn't enough. Using my connections throughout the entertainment industry, I exposed every scandal involving Laura and Makoto that I had once helped suppress. Her infidelity, the fake awards, the fraudulent charity donations, everything was released all at once. Overnight, Makoto's carefully manufactured public image completely collapsed. Even the wealthy woman who had openly flirted with him during that banquet had never forgotten the humiliation she suffered. Still holding a grudge, she dropped an even bigger bombshell by exposing everything Makoto had done overseas. The truth was that Laura's family had never forced him to leave the country. He had accepted money from Laura's family while secretly getting involved with an American woman, enjoying a carefree life abroad. According to the timeline, he had been living with that American woman long before he officially broke up with Laura. The 2 of them even had a mixed-race son together overseas. The only reason he returned this time was because he had been caught cheating while his American partner was pregnant. After getting beaten by several foreigners, he fled back home and staged a dramatic reunion with Laura. Holding Lisa in my arms as we finished reading every detail of the scandal on the computer, I couldn't help applauding. It was incredible, far more dramatic than any movie. Before long, both Laura and Makoto became wanted by the police for malicious defamation. I later heard that after all the scandals were exposed, the 2 of them had gotten into a violent argument. In a fit of uncontrollable rage, Laura stabbed Makoto in the stomach. When the police finally arrived at their home to arrest them, they found Makoto lying in a pool of blood, barely clinging to life, while Laura had already disappeared. The once glorious movie queen had become a fugitive overnight. What a tragic ending. No, she wasn't even a movie queen anymore. The awards belonging to a disgraced artist had long since been revoked by the committee and were already scheduled to be presented again at the next film festival. Just before I accompanied Lisa onto the red carpet, I noticed a shadow slipping quietly into the dressing room. I immediately chased after it, dragged the figure out from behind a corner, and froze for a moment when I recognized the person. It was Laura. She looked utterly miserable. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes were filthy, and she smelled so foul that she resembled a beggar who had been living in a garbage dump for days. She probably had been hiding in places like that while trying to avoid the police. Pinching my nose in disgust, I instinctively stepped in front of Lisa to shield her. Laura stared at me with eyes as vicious as a starving wolf. "Marco, please save me. My family has abandoned me. Nobody wants me anymore. Don't you still love me? Please, save me." She stumbled toward me, forcing a smile that looked even uglier than crying. Without hesitation, I kicked her back onto the floor. "I'm married now, lady. What ridiculous fantasy are you still clinging to?" The rejection instantly drove her into madness. "Marco, you ungrateful bastard. Without me, the movie queen, what would you, the so-called ace agent, ever have become? I am your glory. I am your badge of honor. That decorative vase standing behind you is nothing." Then she glared at me with bloodshot eyes and screamed, "You call me fickle, but you're the one who abandoned me and found another woman." Seeing that I remained completely unmoved, she finally tore away every last bit of her disguise. She looked utterly insane. I grabbed her by the throat, stared into her eyes, and spoke with icy calmness. "Laura, I truly considered it. I thought about loving you sincerely. I even thought about marrying you. My voice became colder with every word. But all these years, you never saw me as myself. You only treated me as Makoto's substitute. You were completely blind. Every time you used Makoto's photo as your chat background. Every time you secretly engraved his initials inside our rings. Did you ever think about how I felt? I looked down at her like she was nothing more than a piece of trash. Laura, people like you don't deserve happiness. With that, I let go and threw her aside. She staggered across the floor and collapsed helplessly while watching Lisa gently take my hands and wipe them clean. Laura broke down completely, sobbing on the floor. Bitch, it's because you seduced Marco. That's why he stopped loving me. I hate you. I hate both of you. Suddenly, she let out a piercing scream. A flash of steel glinted through the room as she pulled out a blood-stained knife and charged straight toward Lisa with murderous intent. Bang! A gunshot echoed through the dressing room. Laura cried out in agony. A bullet had pierced her hand, leaving behind a bloody hole as the knife clattered onto the floor. The police, who had arrived just in time, rushed forward and subdued her with ease. Lisa had secretly called the police earlier, and they had arrived at the perfect moment to witness Laura's attempted attack firsthand. As the officers dragged Laura away in handcuffs, it was finally time for us to walk the red carpet. I gently took Lisa's hand in mine, and together we walked past the disheveled Laura. Smiling calmly, I looked down at her and said, "Sorry, you're blocking the real movie queen's way."